The San Francisco 49ers just signed a player you might not have heard about, and this guy has a nasty streak. His name is Colton McKivitz, but before we get there, we need to talk about why the San Francisco 49ers actually needed to sign him, because Mike McGlinchey has been the starting right tackle for the San Francisco 49ers for quite a but he really never lived up to his first round billing, and with Nick Bosa about to get paid a bunch, the San Francisco 49ers frankly can't afford Mike McGlinchey. But I think Colton McKivitz might actually be an upgrade over Mike McGlinchey because, well, I think Mike McGlinchey had some issues in his game. First of all, if you have a photo of yourself being picked up and thrown in the air with one hand, that's not a good look. I know, whatever, he was off balance. It's just not a good look. And he also struggled as a run blocker and pass blocker at times with this 49ers. And he was supposed to be like this dominating run blocker and maybe earlier in his career, but last year I didn't see that as much. But this video is about Colton McKivitz, so let's jump into him. The 49ers just broke news they signed Colton McKivitz to a 2-year deal. And this is pretty big news because prior to this, they also announced that if Mike McGlinchey was going to leave during free agency, which he's going to, they're going to start Colton McKivitz. So therefore, this deal actually locks up Colton McKivitz for a couple of years to be the starter. And since he is the San Francisco 49ers foreseeable starter at right tackle, I thought it'd be nice if we jumped into his background, looked at where he came from, where he started playing football, all that good stuff, his strengths, his combine, just basically who he is as a player and what we can expect to see from him since we've seen so little. Colton McKivitz is 26 currently. He was born August 9th, 1996 in Jacobsburg, Ohio. His height's 6'6", and he weighs 301 pounds. Colton McKivitz grew up in Belmont, Ohio, and attended East Richland Christian High School before transferring to Union Local High School shortly before his sophomore year. As a senior, McKivitz was named First Team All-Ohio. Union Local retired McKivitz's jersey number in 2019. And as a high school student, he was still 6'7", weighing 262 pounds. And 24/7 Sports had him a rating of 3 stars. He had multiple offers from Marshall, Kent State, Bowling Green, Akron, and then also West Virginia. He ultimately decided to enroll at West Virginia. But before we jump into his college career, I also want to mention that Colton McKivitz played basketball, and he was actually pretty good, earning All-State honors as a senior in 2014. A couple other interesting facts or tidbits that I found, not really to do with football, but still interesting nonetheless, is that Colton McKivitz caught an 8-pound fish, and that's the largest fish he ever caught, which is pretty good, and he did that in summer 2019. And then he's also a fan of country music, citing that he likes Kenny Chesney, Zach Brown Band are some of his favorites. But that's plenty of random tidbits about Colton McKivitz for now. We're talking about his college days, and something that became apparent during his West Virginia days was his ability to run block, especially his ability to get to the second level, peeling off of double teams. I think that's something that he excelled in, and his athleticism on the field is a little bit better than I think he tested during the combine, which we'll get to a little bit later. Another factor of Colton McKivitz's game that I really enjoyed watching was his ability to improve. Specifically improving from high school to college, his handwork got a lot better, his footwork improved drastically. I also thought throughout his college career, he improved a ton. And I think this bodes really nicely for San Francisco 49ers fans because this improvement that we saw shows his work ethic. And if the San Francisco 49ers feel comfortable enough starting him, I think that he might be ready because a lot of people immediately wrote off Aaron Banks as a bust, saying he wasn't ready and all this stuff. He turned out to be a great guard. And then I think that the same thing that can happen to Banks can happen here in McKivitz's case. And the final part of Colton McKivitz's game I wanted to touch on before we jump into his college stats and his combine and all that is just his nastiness. The way he plays football is just like a lineman should. He's trying to get after these guys, drive them into the floor, and you've seen this all the way from his high school days. And that's something that a lot of players either have or don't have. that like drive to go impose your will on another person. And it appears that Colton McKivitz has that, along with that drive to be great that we talked about earlier. McKivitz redshirted his true freshman season. He became the Mountaineers starting left tackle 4 games into his redshirt freshman season after starter Yondi Costi tore his ACL. And McKivitz started the final 10 games of that season. As a redshirt sophomore, he moved to right tackle, starting all 13 games and earning honorable mention All Big 12 Conference honors. McKivitz started all 12 of the Mountaineers games as a redshirt junior. He moved back to the left tackle going into his redshirt senior season and was named first team All Big 12, the Big 12 Co-Offensive Lineman of the Year, and a second team All-American by Walter Camp and the Associated Press's third team. So you can see that improvement that I was talking about earlier, going from a red shirt that had to step in due to injury and eventually becoming on Associated Press's third team and second team All-American by Walter Camp. Just a bunch of great awards he accumulated his final years. So after completing all these years, McKivitz was headed into the NFL, but he had to complete the NFL Combine first. And here are some of his issues. His arm length was kind of short at 33 3/4. That's something that's still on a lot of people's radar to see if he can be an efficient tackle in the NFL with those short arms. I think he should be fine. He also is 306 pounds. His height on the combine was 6'6", so his height's between 6'6" and 6'7" probably. And his 40-yard time was pretty average for an offensive lineman. He ran in 5.35 seconds. His 10-yard split was 1.8 seconds. His vert was 26. His broad jump was 8.10. His 3-cone was 7.87. His 20-yard shuttle was 5. And his bench press was 20 reps. So pretty respectable. I mean, it's just average athleticism, I would say. But despite some of these concerns, the San Francisco 49ers decided to take a gamble with him on the 2020 draft, selecting him in the 5th round with the 7th pick. And Colton McKivitz has remained the San Francisco 49ers backup since then. But as a backup, I would say that Colton McKivitz has been really solid and stepped in admirably when Mike McGlinchey did get hurt or when they needed to rotate him in. And some of his strengths in the NFL is still his run blocking, and maybe even be a better run blocker than Mike McGlinchey. And now, since the San Francisco 49ers signed him and Mike McGlinchey's leaving, Colton McKivitz is going to step in a role that he's been waiting his whole entire life for, and being a starting tackle. And he has a big responsibility on his shoulders, protecting Trey Lance or Brock Purdy, both who were injured. He really needs to lock down that side of the line and ensure that his quarterbacks remain upright and healthy.